On today's show, the guys talk with William Zhou, the CEO of Chalk.com. There's an East Initiative update, all of that and more up next on EduTechGuys. You're listening to the EduTechGuys, EduTechGuys.com. Hello and welcome to this episode of EduTechGuys. I'm David Henderson.
Hey, I'm Jeff Madlock.
Yeah, how's it going? Thank you guys so much for tuning in, downloading, taking a listen, all that kind of good stuff. We are very excited about today's episode.
And I hope you're excited too. So you need to head out excitedly to www.edutechguys.com, or heck, just go out to Google. I say it every week, and I'm going to say it now for turkey season. Gobble, gobble. Go ahead and go to Google, type in EduTechGuys, and you're going to find us out there. It's looking back at you, gobbling away on some food, and I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's when I started it.
It's the gobble, gobble, Google gobble.
Google gobble. I have to say that's what I'm waiting for the most is tomorrow, Thanksgiving. I think it's as we record this. I can't wait to see what the Google graphic is going to be. I live every day for the Google graphic. That's the only reason I get up in the mornings anymore is to see what the Google graphic is going to be on the Google search page.
Well, and they call it the Google Doodle, so it's going to be the Google Gobble Doodle or the Google Doodle Gobble or something. I'm hurting myself.
I'm going to save it till after the parade and right before the National Dog Show. That's where I'm going to save it. So
that's right.
It's not to ruin anything there.
That's right, man. Don't be blowing it for Westminster.
Yeah, for Westminster, exactly. You made me cough. That was good.
This is here's a true story. This shows you how dumb not that I'm much smarter now, but as a young teenager, my family and I had moved to Colorado, and we lived in the town of Westminster. So when we moved there, I of course wanted to know where they had the dog show. People were like, "What are you talking about?"
Well, that's good to know. To be a kid, so but it sounds like your senior year in high school was rough on you. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Like that. I got in an age joke, and I said it was rough for the dog show. Anyway.
Oh, that was good. I actually missed the rough. Sorry. See that?
Okay,
man.
Before we lose the 8 listeners that have started the show, we have a great show today. Yeah, William's here from Chalk.com, and we're going to talk about what Chalk has to offer and how it came about and his story, but behind the way he founded this company and what they do, getting real-time academic insights and, the way that they can, jump into your curriculum and help you out and instructional planning and all that kind of good stuff, and, like helping you get to that goal at the very end. So it's going to be a really great interview. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. Oh, wait, I've already done it.
We're looking forward to hearing it again.
Hey, what do you say we go ahead and jump right into that right now? Sound good to you?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Hey, welcome back to the EduTechGuys. We're really excited to have our next guest on the show today. We're going to let him introduce himself and tell us who he's with and all that kind of good stuff. So here we go.
Hi, everyone. My name is William Zhou, and thank you, David and Jeff, for having me on the show. And I am the CEO of Chalk. Chalk, for really a 30,000 feet view for the audience, is a planning and analytics platform that enables really schools and districts to develop a cohesive, standard-aligned map for curriculum instruction. To me, being in this industry, I've just recognized that really curriculum instruction is the foundation to teaching and learning, and that's really the segment and really the part of the market that we help with.
That's awesome, man. So, okay, so let's get into the whole how Absolutely. Chalk came about first, so that our listeners will really know. So I know you guys, founded this while you were in college.
Yes, you're absolutely right, and I'll say right up front that I think perhaps the majority of the listener, and even you folks, have certainly a lot more experience than myself. My background is actually not in education, and this has been a passion project for me from really the get-go because you're right, absolutely. I founded this in college, and I was in my second year of studies, and I had gone back to visit home and visit my high school teachers. They were really my heroes at the end of the day, right? They were the ones that really made me who I am today, pushed me to be who I am today. And really visiting my own high school teachers, as somebody who's just, as an alumni, I always, they were not just my mentors, they're friends even to this day. And really sitting down with them saying, hey, we now can go grab a drink, right? As just two human beings. And,
exactly.
And
you do that when you were in school, man.
Exactly. You can't say that. And isn't that neat? Isn't that cool to do that? And of course, little did I know, right? I mean, I'm thinking about, 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, we could probably do this. That is not the case at all, right? And again, me coming from a very much of computer science background, right, is probably a little bit more ignorant. I thought that teachers have this wonderful job, all the time off and summers off, and it's clearly not the case. I know, you're laughing over there, David, but it really is something that struck me, because I said, why is everything on paper? Why is lesson planning done on paper? Why are some of these menial tasks done on paper? And really that was a start, because I said to myself, there's got to be a better way to do some of these things. And really that was how Chalk was born, was to cater to my own high school teachers as a planning platform.
So you think I love it because, reading your brief bio here, you guys created this because you saw the need for it. Did you start to realize the need for it even more once you got to post-secondary? I mean, when you got to college, you realized, this explains why I didn't learn, or I didn't get this kind of information from my teachers, because they were so overwhelmed, and
absolutely.
And if they had this data, then they could have gotten to this point.
Absolutely. I think there's so much that we can do to support our teachers, whether it's giving them information, insights, or data, right? Our teachers, our administrators, really in helping them to not only get that cohesive, guarantee viable curriculum built out. I like to akin this to almost like an academic GPS. We're kind of like an academic GPS where, when I think about education now, when I think about instruction, you can't really go about instructing, so to speak, without really a fundamental curriculum document or curriculum map. It's like saying, I want to go to a location without a map, or today, Google Maps or Apple Maps, and planning that trip, right? And not knowing that destination, you can't really understand, well, what turns am I going to be taking? And similarly, if you go off of that analogy further, not having any analytics, right? So we see many school districts, we work with many school districts where many times their curriculum documents are on SharePoint and are on our, really Google Docs even. And well, guess what, right? It's great that you have it digitized, but at the end of the day, what analytics are you getting from that? Do you know how your teachers are really using it? What parts are being used? And really, how does it flow from one grade level to another, right? And so, it's akin to really having a map now, but not having that turn-by-turn direction. And you know what? If a road's closed, right? Thank God that Google Maps tells me that I can take this other road, but what are we going to do for our kids, right? So that's me. Looking back now, I certainly have a much deeper appreciation of everything that my teachers have done, right? Right down to, spending those Sunday nights planning those lessons, just because they can deliver some enriching content for us.
So I'm kind of curious, you met with your former teachers for drinks, and over drinks came up with Chalk.com. I'm sure over many, not necessarily in one session. Let me clear that up. Although then again, who knows? So my question is, when you were talking to those teachers, to your friends, about this idea, and as you were developing this, what were some of the obstacles that you faced at that point? And then not only overcoming those particular obstacles, but what are some of the challenges and obstacles you face now that it's actually up running and people are using it?
Absolutely. And I should correct, not necessarily over drinks, but my teachers were almost too busy to
exactly,
have those drinks, right? That's part of the reason.
Oh, I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but really, I mean, when you talk about challenges, gosh, a ton. I mean, times have changed in terms of education technology. I think we're seeing a lot more adoption. of technology within schools, but certainly when we started, I want to say half a decade ago, I mean, it was still, we're talking about connectivity right back in the days, right? And I'm glad that's more or less solved now. But really, when we work with districts nowadays, it comes down to, you know what, how do we support that change management? Because we all know that curriculum instruction is really the fundamentals of our education. And it's about what we're planning and what we're delivering. And yet, it just sometimes fall by the wayside because of prioritization. We've got all sorts of things going on within schools, right? Whether it's security, whether it's related to, needing to talk to a parent. When is it the right time to really, for all of us, for all of my teachers to sit down to map out what we ought to teach, to ensure we have grade level to grade level consistency, and to ensure that we're aligned, right, to our state standards. I mean, you wouldn't imagine in many cases when a district just says, you know what, perhaps let's just go and find a textbook, right? And you know what, at the end of the day, when we talk about the greatness of personalized learning, when we talk about differentiating our instruction, how would you do that if you're just buying textbooks? I mean, that's the real question. And you're still spending a lot of money on textbooks.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask this question. Let's talk about its integration into the curriculum, its integration into the school, the real-time aspects, the aspects of it that make it a useful tool each and every minute and moment that a teacher's using it, and the administration and the curriculum coordinators and the tech people. How does it integrate into a system?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about something that I think that's hugely important, because if we wait, right, if something is in real time, I always like to say, well, it's too late, right? There's this analogies, right? So diagnostic versus autopsy. I think in many cases, we're talking about real-time insights, whether it's how are we pacing on our curriculum, whether it's do we have gaps in our curriculum, right? These are the real things that we're teaching our kids. And if we're not seeing those, we're doing an autopsy report when the state exams come in, right? And that's a reality of so many superintendents we've heard from. And when they would rather say, how do we do a diagnostic, interim, right? I mean, just the same way we do that now with students in interim assessments. How do we do that with our main curriculum instruction? How do we understand what's wrong now so we can make those adjustments? And Chalk really is all about providing that capability to the districts and to the schools and to the teachers, telling them, well, here's the gap between your third grade, ELA versus your fourth grade ELA. Here are, how many times you've covered this particular standard, but you know what, you ought to cover this other standard, because in fourth grade, you're going to be covering it even in a much deeper level, right? So really about having that now component and having that real-time analytics is hugely important. And of course, when you're talking about the integrated portion, we don't want to just come in and say, hey, we're a great lesson planner, teachers love it. So, that end of story, right? No, we do believe that you need to have really the fundamental pillars of curriculum instruction being in one place. And so it really is about providing a single system to ensure that, curriculum instruction and eventually assessment is integrated with one another, really based upon those relevant standards. So it is one place that can solve all of those critical pieces of the academics.
Well, I think you've sort of touched on the idea of taking this data, and we've talked a lot about data and its usage, but really extending the data. I mean, the data is all well and good, but honestly, when you talk to a lot of teachers about data, their eyes start to glass over, and they start to, their mind wanders, and they're suddenly, their head going to Pinterest and Instagram.
You've got cameras following me, don't you? No, I'm kidding.
But one of the things that you've touched on is that longitudinal application of the data. I think that is one of the biggest problems we have in public education right now, especially with all the standardized testing that's required of students. We test third graders, and we test fifth graders. And that gives you that picture of that moment in time of those particular students at that particular moment. But where's the longitudinal? How do I know that it was, that there's not something going on with this particular group of third graders that move to fourth, that move to fifth. And as you had said, there are going to be some things that maybe we need to make some adjustments because the third grade coursework is not quite leading into what they need for fourth grade, or the teachers sit down and look at all the data and they go, okay, wait a minute. Actually, this particular group of students, or for that matter, if you narrow it down even, more than that, you have these specific students are way ahead of the curve. We've got to figure out how can we adjust our curriculum in order to help them, grow beyond, the I don't know, kind of the walls of the curriculum that we try to put students in. Am I making sense?
I think you've hit the nail on the head, David. I think we can probably talk our heads off, quite frankly, about assessment and standardized assessment. I'm sure you have had wonderful folks on the show talking about it, so I'll reserve my comments there. But really, in the way that really our education system set up today, I think we get a lot of point in time check-ins of what's going on, and that gives our administrative bodies and even our teachers certainly point in time ideas of where the students are at. But really what we're finding when we talk to superintendents, teachers, and principals is, what does that relate to? Because that is almost the output, if you think about it, right? That is the end outcome of how did a student do? And so when you ask, well, what led into that, right? So what led into that student scoring that? Certainly there's a component of the variability being the students themselves. But when you think about it, it's a teaching and learning, right? It's the curriculum instruction. It's about what we want to teach our students, right? Standard aligned and all that. And how are we going about doing that? And that's really the two components we want to capture. And when we then are able to associate that with the end result, with the assessment, boy, that's when we are able to see the real data, right? The real correlation between, well, we said we would do this, and you know what, we did it. And in actually one case where one of our customers in Pennsylvania, Susquehanna School District, they actually saw a correlation, right, in their interim assessments of 31% in their reading specific group, right? Because they not only had the assessment, which is the end result, but said, well, here's what we plan to do. So there's this input-output side of things, and I'm probably getting overly engineering speak here, but that's really how I look at this and say, you can't just have the end result. You need to say, well, what exactly did we do here? And that's what curriculum instruction means to us.
I think what's great about this is that I was just making some notes here, and the thing that pops out is that Chalk.com is looking to help teachers and students learn and teach. Mm-hmm. And if a byproduct of that is good assessment scores, that's a good thing. But I see where you're going with this. And so I think that's the really interesting part that I think our listeners would like to know, especially those in the roles of administration, is can you give a quick synopsis of how a teacher has some real-time information at their fingertips and also can get more input from the higher-ups, from their curriculum coordinators, from their principals, from their administrators?
Absolutely. So as a teacher, by the way, encourage any teacher audience listening, you can search up on mobile devices on the web. Frankly, if you search up lesson planning on I think iOS, the top tool will be Planboard, which is actually part of Chalk. Yeah, that is our lesson planning tool. So it's not called Chalk, but it is one that's huge, widely used, and it's completely open and free for teachers. So highly encourage anybody to take advantage of that resource. But as a teacher, right? So what actionable resources can you see as you're mapping out, as you're planning out your lessons? You are able to understand the gaps in standards coverage, right? In many schools and districts where they say, well, I want you to also submit some, kind of teacher artifacts, right? So, lesson plans, call them, right? You're able to do that with a click of a button and able to really get it into the hands of the principal with those identifiers to say, well, here's exactly when I taught this particular subject, or I taught this particular standard. And why is that important? It's important because then as you think about, well, my students perhaps did great or perhaps did poorly, I can now correlate back to the time when I taught this, go directly to that date, see how I taught it, what standards have I covered, right? Moving on to year over year, as a teacher, instead of doing everything all over again, you can now, instead of reworking the wheel, it's about really making those incremental improvements. And so we help you carry over in your entire lesson plans, which is, again, standard and curriculum aligned, right? Helping them really eliminate some of those more administrative tasks and then allowing them to really improve upon that. And so that's really, from a teacher's perspective, how it can really help them out.
Yeah. So I have one more question, and this is how do data-driven future of schools is real important. I mean, we know that now, especially with the emphasis placed on assessment and where we're moving forward. But where do you see the human element this is what helped you start this whole process, was realizing the human element that still needs to be a part of teaching and learning. Where are you guys going with that? And what do you see in Chalk.com's future? And how do you see that playing a big role, is the actual human side of both the teaching and the learning?
Absolutely. I mean, at Chalk, our mission has always been to empower teachers, and that will stay true. For me personally, it was my teachers that really pushed me to be who I am. And I think there's always going to be this element of the human connection, the storytelling, right, aspect of it. And when I think about the future of education, and frankly, when you look at every other industry, we're moving more and more into data-driven, quite frankly, any industry. This is not, going to be no different. But I think when it comes down to learning, we've seen in the past, we've tried all sorts of, whether it's called the teaching machines, whether it's, democratization of online education. All those are wonderful, and credit to those entrepreneurs and folks who have done it. But at the end of the day, especially in K-12 education, our belief at Chalk has always been that there needs to be that teacher. Right now, the role of the teacher may be changing, but that there needs to be that teacher, because at the end of the day, we are human and we are very much emotional creatures. We learn from storytelling. We learn from talking about different concepts and building on creativity and all these, aspects where, sure, there's, we want to get rid of rote memorization, but how can we build upon these skills that are very much of the soft skills for the future? And I don't think that's through sitting in front of a computer and learning from a pre-made, recorded, whatever. And so, we want to be supportive of where that teaching profession is going. And that's really what Chalk is about. It's empowering teachers.
Well, I want to ask you a personal question now. Your passion for entrepreneurship and your passion for education, they go hand in hand, don't they?
Absolutely.
You think that really helped you realize your deeper passion for education? Is that, that learning of, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I mean, we talk to a lot of kids about that. They realize that suddenly that, and it's just the word we use right now, entrepreneurship, but it's that, that ability to create something on your own and realizing that it's everything you've built up before that to get to that point.
It really is. And it's really about the ambition and the creativity and knowing that, you can create it. And what's funny is we'll probably talk about this another day, but in theory, I when I was in high school, I created a school forum, and this was before people really knew what a forum is. Let's be honest, in education. And all I wanted to do, honestly, was to have teachers and students to share notes. And it was probably the most nerve-wracking thing for me, because I had to stand in a room of 70 teachers and really pitch them on my own school, right? As a 10th grader. And I think that's really when my passion started, really just helping students, but eventually recognizing the need from the teachers. And I really do think that, that entrepreneurship comes from that, the human element.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if our listeners want to find out more, reach out to you, steal your ideas. No, find out more about Chalk.com or have a conversation or, follow you on Twitter.
Absolutely.
What's the best way they can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Really, I mean, for anything Chalk, they can just go to Chalk.com. For me, I can be reached on Twitter at William WZ. Feel free to reach out on Twitter, give a shout out, and I'm always happy to discuss about education, the future of it, and really anything related to Chalk.
Awesome, man. Hey, we want to thank you for coming on the show, and I can't wait to meet you in person, and maybe we can all sit down and have a drink and have a long discussion on this. It'll be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Hey, thank you so much to Mr. Zhou for coming by and hanging out with us and talking about not only all of the things that Chalk does. Well, actually, we didn't even get to touch on all of the things, but some of the things that Chalk does, but also the human aspect of it. And I really love the fact that he touched on, we need the human element. We got to have that human touch.
Well, and it's interesting. I think that's what I love about a lot of the educational entities that we talk about, service companies and websites and people that are building curriculum and assessment, helping our teachers. I can tell you that we could have talked to him for probably another 48 hours because not to trivialize in a 15 to 20 minute interview, but Chalk.com has some really heavyweight stuff going on there. And the best part is that they're putting the teacher and the learner and the human element of it at the forefront. That's really cool.
Absolutely. Cool. Absolutely.
And what's cool is we hope you're having a great holiday. You're probably listening to this after the Thanksgiving holiday, which means we're only, 2.5 weeks away from Christmas.
That is crazy. I cannot believe how quickly Christmas is going to come after Thanksgiving. I know a lot of people are like, well, it's always that. No, actually, this year, it's a week short. So that is just, it's crazy to me that Christmas is, almost literally right around the corner. And holy cow.
Yeah. Can you believe that? I'm pretty excited because I was going to get, I was thinking about getting one of those with the red and blue gaming console. What's that one you can hold in the Nintendo Switch?
Oh, uh-huh.
And I was going to get some of those games, like where you shoot them up and stuff. But my mom said I'd shoot my eye out. So I'm not going to get it.
There you go.
Isn't that happening now? The digital version of you'll shoot your eye out. You'll shoot your virtual eye out.
Exactly. Hey, but along those same lines, and I know we're not a gaming channel, but, or a podcast, but something to consider for those of you still looking for, something different and unique maybe. There is Google actually released a really cool, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but it's a controller, which just looks like any other controller, frankly. But it also has another piece that you plug into your TV, and essentially it allows you to play, all kinds of different games over the internet directly. So like the game, you're playing the game and it's basically being streamed to you. You don't install anything. You don't download anything. You're just playing essentially in the browser. And the games that I have seen some people playing on this thing, they are first person shooter, real time multiplayer. It is crazy. And then the other thing is not only can you hook it to your TV, but you can actually take that same controller and you just move it to your PC, to your Mac, to your Chromebook, and you can pick up right where you left off. It is, it is truly mind blowing for somebody who grew up on, Pong and Atari.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And isn't it called Stadia? Is that right?
Stadia, yeah. That's what it's called. Yep.
Yeah. I think it starts at like $129, right? Yeah, you don't have to have a console anymore. You just play it online.
Yeah, it's so cool. So cool.
Well, maybe I can get one of those, but my mom will probably still say I'll shoot my eye out. And if she doesn't, then my wife will say I'll shoot my eye out. So either way, I'll
maybe your wife will shoot your eye out.
I'm just going to get some socks, maybe a winter coat or something. Stuff that's practical that I would use, but
never get anything fun anymore.
Hey, we hope you've enjoyed the show and you're still here listening to us to the end.
Hey,
I'll tell you what, David.
We hope you
You're
had.
going to be at AESA, aren't you, next week?
Oh,
so
yes.
David will be at AESA. The guys will not be there this year. Unfortunately, some things happened, and we're not going to be able to make it this year. So,
yeah, but I will be there. I'll be wearing my technology coordinator hat. So if you happen to be out that way, then definitely run into me in the hall. Literally, you can just knock me over, and I'll be like, "Hey, how's it going?"
Well, don't forget to visit us on the web, www.edutechguys.com. You can find us on all the social medias out there at EduTechGuys. TikTok channel to come.
TikTok?
Maybe. I'm going to do one of my favorite, magic tricks on TikTok. I'm going to have you and I standing there, and then I'm going to disappear, and you get a new co-host. It's going to be pretty cool.
Awesome. My gosh.
Hey, we hope you've had a great time. We have had a great time. Hey, I'm Jeff Madlock.
I'm David Henderson.
We'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to the EduTech Guys, edutechguys.com.